Hi everybody, welcome back to Project Happy Home. For those of you who are new here, welcome. I'm Tanya, a doctor, lawyer turned homeschool mom of 3 kids ages 10, 7, and 5. Today I'm participating in a collaboration hosted by Lisa over at Catholic Marathon Mom. And if you haven't checked out her channel, particularly if you're Catholic, you might want to do that because she posts great videos about homeschooling, especially like older kids who are in the high school stage, as well as lots of videos about her Catholic faith. So definitely head on over and check her out, as well as many of the other moms who are participating in this collab. I will link the playlist in the description box down below. So Lisa came up with 5 questions, and these 5 questions are basically introductory homeschool questions. I know that when I started homeschooling, part of the difficulty was just figuring out who else homeschooled and what this might look like for our family, but how other people did it as well. So if you watch my video and the other videos from people on this playlist, I think you'll get a good array of different ways of homeschooling, different ideas, different educational philosophies, etc., to start you on your journey of exploring. And if you have been homeschooling for a while and you're having difficulty finding your tribe of people, the people you gel with where you're not dreading the homeschool gathering, my best advice to you is to try again. Go to those play dates, those random co-op play dates, go on some of those field trips and see if you can find 1 or 2 moms even that just gel with you. So I hope these videos are helpful to you guys because it'll just show you the depth and breadth of homeschoolers out there. And by the way, I really do appreciate that Lisa, as a Catholic homeschooling mom, invited me to participate in this collab because sometimes, in the homeschooling community, us secular homeschoolers feel a little bit left out. So I really do appreciate that. So the first question is basically, how long have I been homeschooling and how many kids do I homeschool? This will be our 4th year of homeschooling. I started homeschooling my eldest in 1st grade. And the girls have been homeschooled the entire time. So I have 3 kids, as I mentioned. They are in 4th grade, a hybrid 1st and 2nd grade, and kindergarten right now. So the second question is, what was the defining moment that you knew that you would homeschool? Now, I come from a very long educational background. I have multiple degrees. I loved school. Homeschooling was not on our radar in any way. We don't have a faith-based reason to do it or a historical reason to do it like in our family or anything. In fact, we met a lot of resistance about homeschooling in our personal lives. But my son, when he started going to kindergarten, just wasn't enjoying himself as much as he had, for example, in preschool and before that. At the time, I was working full-time. He would often come home with little warning slips and things like that, comments about his inability to stop talking. His enjoyment for going there was starting to decline. And then I realized that he wasn't getting something called Friday Treasure Box, which if you got 5 tally marks for good behavior from Monday through Friday, you would get it. And he just informed me very matter-of-factly one day, I'm never going to get that. And this was the first I ever heard of Friday Treasure Box. And that just broke my heart that a 6-year-old would say that he was never going to be able to achieve something and that someone external to our family had convinced him that he was less than in some way. And his teacher, by all accounts, was a nice woman, but I didn't like how she was separating him from the rest of his classmates. She had moved him from table to table of quieter and quieter kids, and she complained to me that he was making all the quiet kids talk as well, which I think is kind of a good thing for socialization personally, but that's neither here nor there. And then for me, the final straw was basically when he chastised his baby sisters for blowing a dandelion to make a wish, because he said that his kindergarten teacher had told them they should never do that because it made weeds. And that just broke my heart that someone would take that bit of childhood magic away from a kid. And whether my son had symptoms of ADHD then or not, I think that would have really broken something in me. And because of that, plus the fact that, we have him diagnosed with ADHD that year, I just wasn't satisfied with what the school could provide in terms of giving him a rich educational experience, given the way that his brain works. I didn't want anything to quell his enthusiastic spirit, and so I decided to experiment with homeschooling the following year. So I went part-time, and I just homeschooled with him. The girls were still going to preschool at the time, and I had the baby, obviously. So my middle daughter I would take to preschool, and I had the baby. So I was in no way convinced that homeschooling was going to be a way of life for us. I actually thought that this would be the year that I kind of got him up to speed with classroom management skills and things like that. and we would put him back into school for second grade and all would be well. In the space of that first year of homeschooling, I just really enjoyed it. I enjoyed being with my children. I enjoyed how much and how easily and how enthusiastically they learned things. And then I was just sold, it becomes like a ball that rolls down a hill. And I thought, we get to wake up when we want, we get to see a movie when we want, we watch educational shows, we play board games, we do textbook work as well, we do read alouds, and I just liked being with them. I liked how they were blossoming as people, unafraid of who they were. So that's how I came to homeschooling. The third question is, what type of homeschool curriculum do you use? Do you create your own? Do you use a faith-based curriculum or a secular curriculum? In general, as a secular homeschooler, I like to use secular resources, but I'm in no way committed to only using secular resources, which I know some people feel very strongly about. I personally find it really easy to tweak curricula for our needs. So if a religious curricula is what I feel like would be best for my child, for example, The Good and the Beautiful has been really good in certain areas for my youngest, I'm happy to do that. It doesn't bother me at all. I'm a little bit more strict about science. I like to keep that pretty secular. We're very eclectic here, so I like to piece together my curriculum from different types of programs. Our history spine has been Build Your Library, and I love it. I think Emily Cook has done an amazing job of creating a robust and interesting, engaging Charlotte Mason type of curriculum for us secular homeschoolers. So if you haven't checked out Build Your Library, definitely do that. I can't recommend it highly enough. If I remember, I will link it in the description box down below. So we do a very eclectic mix of things here. As I said, I don't like to use the same exact curricula for each child because they really do have different strengths and weaknesses. And I like to address that because we homeschool. In terms of educational philosophies, I like to pick and choose and cherry pick the things that I think would work best for my kids and the nature of our family routine. So for Charlotte Mason, for example, I love the living books idea. I love narration. I really like nature walks, and I incorporate handicrafts. Probably not to the extent that a traditional Charlotte Mason person would. In terms of classical homeschooling, I really love the concept of memory work. I'm writing my own secular memory work curriculum right now, which I hope to release this summer. And we do a lot of memory board work where I have different cards of artwork or different pictures of vocab, things like that. So we kind of practice it on a daily basis and review every week. In terms of unschooling, if people just aren't feeling it, I am totally fine with letting go of our agenda for the day. We have movie days, we have park days, we have days where we just take it slower than other days. We are not really tied to a rigid routine. If one of my kids is developing an interest or expressing an interest in one area, I try to find things that can foster that interest. For example, my son and I started reading the Percy Jackson series, which is by no means like high literature, like highfalutin literature, but it's super fun. And it really got my son interested in Greek mythology. So I incorporated Memoria Press's Greek mythology curricula. And I also incorporated things like the Great Greek Myths on Amazon for us to watch. So that's how I foster that unschooly interest-led bit. And then in terms of traditional homeschooling, we really do like to use a lot of Evan Moore workbooks here. I think they're really comprehensive without beating the kid over the head repeatedly with things that they already know. And with workbooks, by the way, if you have a resistance to them, I really do advise that you pick and choose what your student actually needs to work on. There's no reason to waste time with things that they've already mastered. So it sort of gets you through workbooks in the best possible way. And if you see a two-dimensional activity that could easily translate to a three-dimensional activity to improve understanding, for example, a picture of blocks being arranged in a certain way, get a set of blocks out and let your child do that. There's no reason that workbooks need to say two-dimensional. So what did I cover? Charlotte Mason, classical, and traditional. We also do a little Waldorf because I like to incorporate the rhythm of a Waldorf day in the sense that we switch between, brain, like head activities, and hand activities like handicrafts, and like spiritual activities like yoga or watching something about like being a happier person, things like that, games that we play about emotions and emotional regulation, and then also body work where we go for walks, where we do nature study, where we jump on the trampoline. So I like to stay pretty eclectic with my curricula choices and how we implement them in our classroom. I think that Julie Bogart recently said something and posted a meme on Instagram that sums it up perfectly. Like, find out who you are, like bring more of you into your homeschool day. What brings you alive? What brings enthusiasm into your voice, into your eyes and hands? And that will cause your homeschool to flourish. Like, watch your homeschool flourish as you allow your interest to permeate it too. So whether you're eclectic or classical or Charlotte Mason, make sure it's something that resonates with you as a mother and as a teacher so that you can bring that enthusiasm to your kids. The fourth question is, what has been your greatest homeschooling challenge and how have you approached it? For sure, my greatest homeschooling challenge has been my son's ADHD. I don't shy away from labels. You can check out my ADHD playlist to see more about why I don't. I think it can be very empowering to know how your brain works. It's not a detrimental diagnosis in our house. We don't approach it that way. It can be as much of a strength as anything else. And he does have so many strengths from ADHD that he brings to homeschooling, like his creativity, his enthusiasm for learning, his hyper focus when it comes to the things he's interested in. But it also does bring challenges for an educational experience, like the inability to focus on things that might not be the most fun things or not be the things that interest him the most. And getting him to cultivate the virtues of diligence and patience has been challenging at times. But in all honesty, it has made me a much better mother to not only him, but to my girls as well. And together we are growing in this. As he's coming into his preteen years, there's a new layer of difficulty folded in, and I've talked about that in my recent homeschool update video. But together we move forward with that. And I think open lines of communication have really, really helped with that. I think always making sure that I acknowledge that certain things are more difficult for him and scaffolding his day to make those difficulties easier has been really helpful. Instead of wishing that your child is another way, whether you have a child who has dyslexia or ADHD or autism or what have you, I think that instead of wishing your child was someone else, working with your child and how their brain works and pulling out their strengths, letting them know what those strengths are, letting them know how we can best work with their weaknesses, I think that's such a gift that you can give them, and such a gift for yourself too, because it teaches you how everyone doesn't see the world the same way, and that's okay too. And we can, as moms and as teachers, the people who like really shape them every day, do our very best for them so that they can see themselves shine, so that they can feel proud of themselves and always be kind to themselves as they navigate their way through life. The last question is, what advice would I give to somebody who's homeschooling for the first time? I would say, do not try to be like every other homeschool mom out there. When you first approach homeschooling, you will start doing your research. Probably you will be reading your books. You will be finding mentors in real life and in the virtual space on Instagram and on YouTube and on blogs. Do not try to mimic or copy someone who you admire to the exclusion of who you are yourself. Get ideas from them. Keep a notebook. Jot down things that you think might work for your kids. But keep your focus on who you are as a person, who you are as a mom, what your personality is, who you are as a teacher, what your educational philosophies are, and who your kids are. They are not each the same person, nor are they like you. In all likelihood, you're going to have a situation where you have very unique creatures that are going to change from year to year. Your homeschool is going to look different from month to month, from year to year. I think when we start, we can fall into the trap of watching someone online or reading someone's blog or seeing someone's beautiful Instagram flat lays and thinking, I'm going to do it this way. I think it would be great if I had these wooden letters and these ferns and this nature table and this type of read aloud schedule, and I'm just going to mimic that. And I think that's a mistake because, one, those people are trying the best they can too. They are having their own problems behind the scenes. No one's sharing that, and nor do they have to. So take it with a grain of salt. Nothing is as perfect as it seems on social media. Figure out who you are as a family, as a unit, especially if you're a mom like me who went from a schedule with kids in school to kids at home. Be at home with them for a couple weeks. Do one thing at a time. Be at home. Take a little homeschooling vacation for a week. The next week, maybe fold in just read alouds. Figure out when it works and when it doesn't. If you do it after breakfast, does everyone squirm and moan? If you do it before lunch, are people irritable because they're waiting for lunch? If you do it over lunch, does it work beautifully because everyone's attention is held and captivated by the food in front of them? Do you need to have outdoor time? Like, do you need to have that in the morning so people can get their wiggles out? Or do you need to have it in the afternoon because people are starting to get like more and more frustrated with the fact that they're indoors and working? Figure out your rhythm. Like, really observe your kids. Observe yourself. Figure out, when are you short-tempered? When do you not want to do something? And don't do it. No one is forcing you to follow anyone else's schedule or idea of a perfect homeschool day. So my best advice to you was, don't try to be like every single homeschool mom. Don't try to do all of the wonderful things, because there are so many wonderful things that these homeschool bloggers and social media influencers are doing. There's such a plethora of great curricula out there now and great ideas that we have the temptation to do it all, and we cannot. Keep in mind that there are only this many waking hours in a day. Leave a lot of blank space so that your kids can explore their own interests, so that they can be bored, so that they can invent things and games and create their own entertainments. Leave margin and don't try to be like everybody else. I would say those are the best two things. And the third thing would be, accept the fact that you are not going to be able to do all the wonderful things. You just are not. And that's really hard for someone like me to accept, so I know what I'm saying is not the easiest pill to swallow. I hope that was helpful, you guys. I really love the questions that Lisa came up with. Be sure to check out the other answers from the other moms participating in this collab. I will link the playlist down below. Thank you, Lisa, for inviting me to participate. It really does mean a lot to me, and I really appreciate being included. So thanks so much. I wish you guys all the very best day.